afternoon. My name is Marla Moore. I'm a community outreach coordinator with the Howard County Office of Human Rights and Equity. It is our distinct pleasure to host this virtual conversation with Howard County High School students about the importance of diversity and inclusion, social justice, and equity in our school system and our community at large. If you're watching us on Facebook, make sure to like our page so you can receive updates about our virtual and in-person events. If you're watching on the county YouTube channel, be sure to click subscribe to receive notifications about Howard County government offerings. If you're watching us on GTV, you better pull out your phone, open Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and follow us at HOCO OHRE. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Office of Human Rights and Equity, we're an entity of the Howard County government that seeks to eradicate discrimination, increase equal opportunity, and protect and promote human rights in the county. This office serves as a catalyst in fostering attitudes and beliefs among county residents, which confirm that all individuals have an equal opportunity to enjoy a wholesome and productive quality of life free from discrimination. Under the leadership of our administrator, Yolanda F. Saunier, we aim to provide county residents with excellent services and programming. OHRE accomplishes its mission through the Investigations Unit, the Equity and Restorative Practices Unit, and the Community Outreach Unit. If you've experienced discrimination, would like to attend or schedule one of our many informative and engaging training experiences or programs, or you simply want to know more about us, visit our website at howardcounty.md.gov/OHRE. And now, without further ado, I will introduce you to this afternoon's panelists. DeAndre Hoskins is a rising 10th grader at Wild Lake High School. He loves playing sports and plays JV basketball at Wild Lake. DeAndre loves learning in general and specifically enjoys learning about other countries and cultures. He loves to travel and explore new places. He also loves reading and conversing about racial and social justice and equity. DeAndre is not afraid to say what's on his mind. He plans to play college ball at Duke University and study engineering. Gabby Oshadia is a rising junior at Wild Lake, and she wears many hats. Active in the Student Government Association, Class Council, and Wild Lake Students for Social Justice. Gabby loves using her leadership to make an impact in the community. She hopes to become an architect one day. Camille Roberts, a 9th grader at Wild Lake, identifies as Caribbean and Black. He recently discovered that he also has Indigenous ancestry. Camille considers himself politically woke when it comes to talking about his people and other cultures. He just made Student of the Month for Spanish class. Very active in musicals and plays, Camille plans to attend the Chadwick Boseman Department of Arts at Howard University. Whoop, whoop, HU in the house. That is my alma mater, and I have a minor in theater. Go Camille. And his dreams include portraying Miles Morales in the Marvel franchise. Oliver Song is a Wild Lake High rising senior. He currently serves as student government president and was recently elected as Howard County Student Council president. Oliver is extremely passionate about justice and equity and hopes to help other students feel the same. Darius Tyler, a senior at Glenelg, is currently interning with the Office of Human Rights and Equity in the Outreach Department unit. At Glenelg, he is involved with the Honor Council, the Student Diversity Council, and the Black Student Union. He will be attending Cornell University next year to study government and anthropology. His ultimate goal is to open a public interest law firm that serves marginalized communities. So that is a very impressive panel, and we want to thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to kick around the questions. And the first one, the topic of discussion is, what kind of work do you do to support service, human rights and equity in your school or community? Oliver,
Oh, I'm first.
you
So
are first, Oliver. Yay!
I think Gabby touched on this, but as a group, Wild Lake is really involved in the Students for Social Justice. Last year, when we founded the Students for Social Justice, we focused a lot on local issues. For instance, and participated as to a greater extent on a national level. So for the Black Lives Matter Week of Action, what we did was we planned different presentations. I think we did topics such as disability awareness. We talked about Black cultures around the world. We talked about mental health, and we also talked about school resource officers in Howard County. And going off of that, I think we held a lot of other teach-ins as well to the surrounding community. I think last year surrounding AAPI hate, we did another teach-in, I think, where we talked to community members about the Asian American businesses. And I think we also sent out love and support into the community, along with other resources, businesses to support. So that's a little bit about what I've done in the past couple of years.
Great, thank you. And so we'll now kick it to Darius.
So in school, I'm involved with the Student Diversity Council, where we actually promote topics that are related to human rights and equity by hosting different things such as presentations to spread awareness and also roundtable discussions where members of the community can actually come together to discuss the things that they care about and that are related to issues that are happening within the school community. In the Black Student Union, we not only come together to support one another, but we're also able to plan things such as presentations during Black History Month to shed light on notable Black individuals who often aren't celebrated enough. And I'm also on the Honor Council, where I aid in kind of creating a more equitable environment by interpreting the honor code whenever there's a violation and spreading the message of honor through the community with things like honor-themed movie nights or presentations that are focused on specific aspects of honor. I feel like my presence on the Honor Council is particularly important because I'm occupying a space that Black men typically aren't in, and we're often villainized by the media and seen as not honorable or lacking integrity. So I think it's a great thing that I'm kind of able to hold that position.
Yes, yes, indeed. Camille, what about you? What kind of work do you do to support service, human rights, and equity in your school or community?
Before I start, I just want to say it's an honor to be featured on this panel. What I do, which is kind of just a little bit different, I talk to a lot of people from different cultures, including my own, Hispanics, Black, Brown, Asian, White, about how us as all together can be stronger if we uplift and treat each other more like brothers instead of less than human. As a Black man growing up, it's tough because we are you know villainized and portrayed as thugs and criminals when we are not as such. We are all human. There's only one race, and that's the human race. And you know, I don't see color. Colors are like red, blue, white, black, brown. Those are not colors. So when I go around and I, talk to everyone about this, people sometimes, they say I'm like weird about it, but people say I'm woke because what people would call me woke. But another thing before Christmas time, around that time, stuff started getting heavy with the COVID stuff. I was a part of the Wild Lake BSAP, where we were teaching everybody about Black people and our culture. So, along with that, um, a while ago, I wasn't really this woke, but now I am. So now I'm fully working towards our people and how we can be stronger. So that's how I work towards it.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll kick it to Gabby. Gabby, what kind of work are you doing to support service, human rights, and equity in your school or community?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I think the biggest thing as to what I'm doing is having conversations with any and everybody, whether that is the marginalized groups in society or the groups that are oppressing other groups, because I do truly believe that conversations will be the stepping stone to fixing issues. Also, like Oliver said, Students for Social Justice, we did many teach-ins last year. We had many PowerPoints that we presented to the community. We had so many different conversations. Throughout this year and last year, I've spoke on many panels about diversity and inclusion within the county, and giving my input to leaders within the county and then them using it to better benefit students. Also being on many policy committees, because policy is in many cases the root of the problem. So I've had the opportunity to go in and change policy, to change what's wrong with it so that we can have a better environment. Thank you.
Thank you. And so now we'll kick it to DeAndre.
All right. One, thank you for letting me come on here. And works I do in the community are like, so like the beginning of last year, I joined this program. It's called Ready by 21, and it's basically for like it's to help kids in poverty, like like African American, Mexican American kids, and it's to help us like with like being prepared for like our adulthood and stuff. And like with the first ever meeting I went to with it, it was we were in this little circle. It was like it was in Baltimore. We were in this little circle, and like it was like about like 25 kids there, and we were able to like open up to each other to like our lives and stuff like that, and like where we came from. And it was just different because like everybody there, like we were all like teenagers, but everybody there had like different things happen to them to put them in that like struggling situation and stuff.
Okay, so the next question is burning on our adult minds here because everybody wants to know how to connect with your generation. So the question I have is, what would you like adults to know about partnering with young people, gaining your support, and working together to create positive change? And I will kick that question to Gabby.
I think the biggest thing for adults to know is to listen, and to not just like, I know conversations are all about talking, but to not only but to sit there and actually take in the information so that they can fully understand the problems that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Because if they're just trying to quickly solve it, the problem will only increase. So for me, it'd be listening.
Thanks. Okay, Oliver, what can you tell us?
I would definitely say not to underestimate us. I feel sometimes in the adult world, students especially are seen as less competent. I feel like sometimes our insights, our advice are seen as lesser, almost to other adults or other community members. I would say definitely I would let adults know that I would say our opinions and our concerns really matter as well. Like given that we are in high school, there are many different processes that are happening surrounding social climate, surrounding our education. Like these are all topics that we experience firsthand. Like being in the school building 7 hours a day, being a part of a greater community, experiencing different things. These are all things that we know more about, I would say. And so that would be my part, definitely understanding that students also go through a lot and not marginalizing our advice.
Thank you. Darius, what about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with Gabby that listening is extremely important when attempting to cultivate these relationships between two different generations. I feel like oftentimes people forget that we are coming from two completely different eras and completely different perspectives. And in order to kind of account for this, more attention and time needs to be put into listening and communication in general.
Thank you. Camille, what can we do to make it better?
I would say for adults, when it also correlates to listening, stop trying to give so much advice back, you know. Um, it takes time. Now, of course, some advice works, but you should always listen to new, bright ideas because you never know. A person my age could be right now trying to work on finding the cure for AIDS or cancer. Um, but somebody will like tell him some advice on one thing and it mess up the whole thing. He could have it, but something happens, boom, bam, advice, and it gets messed up. So I just say, try to listen and try not to respond, but then, like hear out before you respond.
Yes. DeAndre, what more can we do? to communicate with
Um,
your generation?
I also agree with Gabby. I think listening is like it's a positive and big part of it because it's like there's a difference between listening like from like adult listening and like changes actually happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I feel like listening is a big part of that.
Okay, so here is one of the money questions, the $64,000 question. You may not know about that, but my generation does. Is the curriculum and the school experience representative of the diversity in the school or the community? Are there any wins? Are there any losses? And also, what can we do? Darius.
So I'm going to say that I have absolutely not felt represented or seen in the curriculum at my school. I feel like we spend too much time looking at the world through a Eurocentric lens and spend too much time just focusing on Europe in general. And I think it wasn't until this year, actually, in my AP literature class, that I actually felt seen when my teacher kind of veered away from the curriculum and taught us about the significant impacts of the Great Migration and the Harlem Renaissance. And we were able to learn about poets and authors that aren't Langston Hughes. That's the main person we always talk about when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance. So it was nice to kind of get a new perspective and new knowledge. And I actually was able to do a presentation on Richard Wright, who was a poet and an author, and he was incredibly influential during that period. So I definitely I feel really appreciated when the curriculum represents me as a student.
Oliver, what do you think about that?
I think I would agree with Darius. I feel like what tends to happen is we have all these months dedicated to different minority groups. We have this month is AAPI month, we have Black History Month, we have Hispanic Voices Month. I feel like during those months we are uplifting students' voices from those marginalized communities, and those months end and we don't hear about them anymore. It's almost as if certain groups only exist during their dedicated month. Especially Pride Month is occurring too, especially with like the whole bunch of stores selling Pride merch only in that month, and then after Pride Month ends, then they stop. I feel like that kind of reflects what happens in the Howard County curriculum, Howard County schools. I think definitely we lack that. Most of our history is taught through Eurocentric lens, like Darius said. Most of the times, we only feel seen in certain areas, certain times, sometimes during those specific months. But again, I definitely think we need to be connecting those areas more. Like incorporation of diverse voices needs to be throughout at every single step of the way, not just during a single month of the year. But that's my 2 cents on it.
What do you think, DeAndre?
I also agree. I agree with Oliver too because like I feel like that the only time that like African Americans are uplifted or supported is like coming around like Black History Month and stuff because that's really when like everybody starts like when it's just like around everyone's like talks about it. We do like assignments on it and stuff like that. And I think that when like those times come around, the only time that it's really it just gives me like a respected feeling, a respected vibe. That's really it.
Gabby, have we heard from you yet? Gabby,
Again?
have we heard from you yet on this one? The question was, do you think the curriculum is representative of the diversity in your school or the county? And what could they be doing? What more could we be doing if something is missing? Do you feel representative and seen by the curriculum?
Not.
Your camera is lagging. Let's take it to Camille.
I agree with what Oliver and DeAndre said. Only during these like certain months, like Asian Pacific, Black History, Hispanic History, Pride Month, they really only uplift our communities when it's needed. I guess you can say, but and even sometimes they may not. because like Black History Month, my history teacher wouldn't even give out assignments about it, which is
Mm.
kind of weird because I guess they were trying to stick to the curriculum. So I guess I kind of understand. But then there's other teachers that will see to it that they show that we are supportive of what's going on, not just during this month, but through to the end of time. And I kind of see that.
Wanted to add one more thing. I had to, I felt I had to actually go outside of the school and outside of my own curriculum to learn about me and my culture. Like I was actually able to participate in a seminar outside of school that focused on critical Black studies, and it was probably one of the most enriching learning experiences that I've had so far in my life. So I feel like I just wonder what would have happened if I had learned about that in school. And like there's other students who don't necessarily have the opportunity to go outside of school to gain this knowledge. So yeah, I think there definitely needs to be a change.
Well, that said, what can the school system do to support you as an African American male or to honor your culture? What can the school system do? Darius.
I feel like the number one thing is that there needs to be an increase in the amount of Black male teachers that are in the school system. I feel like that would change a lot because you're able to look at these Black men as role models and mentors, and currently there isn't support for Black men in the school system. And I feel like and another thing is that we aren't represented in the curriculum, and that also leads to us feeling just not supported in the school system. And yeah, I just feel like there also needs to be just like a decrease in the prejudice within the school system because there's often harsher punishments for Black men, which leads to higher dropout rates or actually being forced out of the school. So I feel like if those things are able to happen, that the school system will be able to become more supportive.
So, Camille, what can the school do to make you feel seen and heard?
I 100% strongly agree with Darius. Um, the system for the school system kind of works with the system in general. The prison, the school to prison pipeline is a real thing that people don't talk about because they think it doesn't exist. When we get suspended, expelled over something small, or we get harsher punishments, like I can be in a fight, somebody gets 1 day suspension, I get a week.
Mm.
It's weird because I feel like if we just like decrease it, like if you're gonna give us hard punishments, at least give the other person a harder punishment or a person or like a punishment that's equal. Like if I get 1 day, dude gets 1 day. If I get a week, he gets a week. If I get expelled, he gets expelled. It's equal like that. It'll be balanced.
What do you think about that, DeAndre?
Can you say the question again?
What can the school system do in general to make you feel seen and heard and honored as a young Black man?
Um, so some of what Camille said about like when like if someone was like if I was to get in trouble like with someone else and we got like equal consequences, equal punishments. Um, I feel like something like that could work, and also um, I also think that the amount of I can't explain it. Like I know what I'm thinking. I just can't like put it into word. You know what I mean? And let me just go back to that. So yeah, hmm?
Well, we can come back for a second. I was going to ask Oliver, does he feel seen and heard regarding being of Asian descent, but also how does cultural bias or gender bias or anything, what do you notice about that in the school? How does it affect you and other students being seen and honored? Because we can talk about things like it's obviously, predominantly African American or African descent panel, but at the same time, the lack of diversity and inclusion affects everyone. So what do you think about that, Oliver?
I'm really sorry. Could you repeat the question?
I'm going to say, do you feel seen and honored and heard by your curriculum? And what do you think the school could do in general? Because you did mention LGBTQ Pride Month, you did mention other minorities. So my question is, what can schools do to make everybody, to make you and everyone else feel welcome and not singled out? Because we've already talked about like different punishment, different attitudes, not having enough teachers, probably not having enough staff, because in my opinion, leadership starts at the top, right? So if so, do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? What do you see, the other students experiencing, and what can we do about it?
I think definitely the schools could do a lot more to make generally all students feel more seen and heard. I feel like as part of a greater community, we sometimes feel isolated. Sometimes our little like quilt pieces aren't touching each other. I definitely feel that the school system needs to help each individual school, which I would argue is their own community, definitely helping them build their own communities, helping other people of color, helping other marginalized people talk to each other. And definitely being able to have those safe spaces where conversation can happen, where this feedback can be given in a safe and inclusive manner, I would even say. I think my school has done a really good job about that this year. There have been lots of opportunities for us to share insights with administration, to express our individual identities. During our little projects that we have done, we have planned certain events, we have planned a culture night. We have definitely done a lot to help bring cultures together, I would say. And as someone who comes from a community that I would say is predominantly traditional, I'm Chinese. My parents were first generation immigrants from China. I definitely think that there is a growing divide between people of color. I know that especially in the Chinese community, a lot of the Chinese community holds very different views towards the communities that we are building at different schools even. And I think a lot of that came out during the redistricting debacle. But I definitely think that, again, the school system and schools could definitely do a lot more to promote safe spaces for feedback to be given, as well as ensure that other communities are talking to each other, are working with each other.
Gabby, are you with us? I'm trying to make sure her camera's not frozen again. Oh, I'm so sorry about the technical difficulty. Are you with us, Gabby? Because I was asking about, is the curriculum, do you feel seen and heard by the curriculum and by the representation at your school?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you heard me, right?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. So I was asking, do you feel seen and heard and represented at your school due to the curriculum and the experiences you've had going to school within the system at Howard County?
I would say by the representation of my school, I do, coming from, yes, I did. Yes, can you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I would say I feel represented in my school very well, coming from an environment that was majority Hispanic, now to being an environment that's almost 50% Black. I feel very represented. But in the curriculum, I wouldn't say I do, because a lot of the things we're learning are still, how do I say this, are still back to 20 years ago rather than what they're supposed to be now.
So I'm going to kick this question to DeAndre. What would make the school and the community in Howard County more equitable and welcoming for all students?
I feel like something that would make it more welcoming is like, so I've noticed, this is personal, like from personal experiences, like I don't feel like welcoming, like seen, heard, unless like I do something like, cause like this is from like personal experience, unless I do something bad or like wrong and like I would get in trouble for it. And when I'm in trouble, that's when like everyone seems to, like listen and want to know, like try to put the pieces together from like what I did. But I feel like someone to do that, they should have already been like doing that before the situation, like what happened had happened.
So, Oliver, what more can we do? Because we want to make social justice, racial equity to be a priority, not just with the students, but with the community. What can we all do to make that happen?
I would say promote more opportunities for students around Howard County to give their input on any initiatives that you might be pursuing. Especially, I really appreciate this panel because it brings a lot of student input into an already very complex situation. I definitely appreciate that. I think having another opportunity like this, or even more opportunities like these, for any other restorative justice initiative that you are pursuing is definitely very helpful. Interviewing students maybe after they have been put into effect, maybe a week or a month into it, it would definitely provide very much valuable insights. So I think, number one, promoting more opportunities for students to give feedback on any initiatives that you may be taking, that Howard County is taking, as well as ensuring that whichever process that you are choosing to do, that there is student input interwoven into every aspect of it.
Camille, what's your advice for us? What can we do to make not just the school, but the county more inclusive and equitable?
I guess we can, if something like happens to, let's say, any type of person of color, we should have we should like have like maybe a ceremony or like a stand where we talk about what happened. Like certain things are like, I'm trying to see how I could put this without, hmm. Like let's say recently it happened in like this happened in school, and I like really thought that that was cool. Our principal took a minute during our advisory and talked about what happened in Buffalo, which that hit close to home because my mom, she lives in New York. I'm from there. It's kind of sad that you can get killed just from grocery shopping. So that hit home, but I'm like, that could have been my mom. So the fact that our principal went and spoke about it in a manner that we can all understand, and I thought that that was really dope because along with that, we just have to do more for our community in general as well. Like if people are struggling, we can get them food, jobs, and like housing help because people are out on the streets still. It's you never know what people are going through, so I think we should just give back, and along with that, we need to give back to people who were lost due to prejudice. If we need to be more inclusive in our community, simple as that.
Great. So, Darius, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree that um, we need to provide students with a platform so they feel like their voices are being listened to, and that I don't know. Sometimes it just feels like people ask us for our input, but then just completely cast away what we said. So I feel like definitely there needs to be an adequate place where our opinions and input can be heard. And I also think that schools should stop treating students like a monolith. Like we all have different needs, and there need to be spaces and different systems that are set up in order to accommodate different students' needs. So I feel like if we implement some of those things, the school system can become a more inclusive place.
What about you, Gabby? What do you think? What can we do to make the schools and the county more equitable and inclusive for all people?
I think that I agree. I think the biggest way to start is to create more spaces where people can come and have conversations, not just setting a certain demographic of students, but opening it up to everybody that's experiencing different issues so that everyone can feel included.
Great. So, DeAndre, what or who inspires you to care and participate in social justice and equity? What inspires your passion?
Um, well, since I'm a basketball player, I will say LeBron James because like him being the person he is today, him like going through the struggles that he did, it's some of the things he's been through is relatable, and the things like the programs that he like invests his money in today are like a lot of like racial justice programs and things like that, and that's like I think LeBron James is kind of who inspires me. Yeah.
Oliver, who inspires you?
I would say definitely when I first started doing a lot of this work, it was definitely Miss Erica Chavarria who got us on this opportunity. Her commitment, especially to helping students, to helping other communities, especially, really inspires me, and I would say continues to inspire me. She is really committed to fighting for what is right, not what is easy. So, and her work on the local and state level is just absolutely amazing. So, definitely Ms. Chavarria.
Yes, it is. We want to give a shout out to Miss Erica Strauss-Chavaria because she helped us put this panel together. She participated in the panel that actually made this happen, which was Teaching Human Rights, where we celebrated teachers who are activists and working in the community and in the classroom to mirror these attitudes and beliefs and behaviors about justice that inspire your generation. So yes, we want to definitely give her kudos. Yes, we can do that publicly. Darius, so what can we do? How can we fix this whole thing? We keep talking about it. There's a big conversation going on, but specifically, people think that we're in a post-racial America. I know you all have heard that, right? Do you think that's true for Howard County? I mean, or do you think what kind of work can we do?
I absolutely not. I do not think we are in a post-racial America at all. I feel like a lot of times people in Howard County feel like these issues don't apply to them. And I feel like educating people is the number one thing that we can do to kind of inspire more people to get involved in human rights and equity work. And I feel like once we educate them, then they'll become inspired to actually get involved and take action. And if more people become enlightened and aware, we can help, I guess, kind of get rid of some of the ignorance that does take place in Howard County.
And so, who inspires you on the journey to help fix this stuff, to fix this problem?
So I'm a big history buff. I like watching different documentaries and reading different books. And I'm always really inspired by the legacies that these individuals leave behind. So, like, the people that inspire me are the ones that don't give up or who didn't give up because we would be living in a completely different world today than we are if these individuals had given up. So, people like Angela Davis really inspired me, one of the first people to really talk about the concept of intersectionality, which is incredibly important in the field of diversity. So, but if she had given up, I guess we would be living in a completely different world. So, people who, these activists really, that really, I don't know how to say it, but that they were the ones that didn't give up, they really inspired me.
So, Camille, who inspires you to keep learning, growing, and fighting for racial justice and equality?
Well, there's one person that always comes to mind when I think about, keep pushing forward and learning more. That person is Fred Hampton of the Black Panther Party. The reason why he inspires me is because he pushed and he pushed and he pushed until, he can break barriers because he knew that what he was doing was dangerous, but he didn't care. He took what he knew, he learned more, and he used that to speak at like very huge places to give these guys a message that there needs to be a change and that we've had enough. So that's who inspires me.
Gabby, who inspires you to do the social justice work and equity work that you do?
I would say my biggest inspiration is the people that I'm helping. Um, like being able to see the work and effort you're putting in help benefit people's day-to-day lives. They inspire me to keep going on, along with Miss Shaw, as Oliver said. She was a great stepping stone in me getting into this, more into this last year, seeing all the hard work she does throughout the community and seeing how that work is paying off. Those would be big inspirations for me.
Great. So, another question, Oliver, how has this work that you do changed your life and maybe helped you deal with your personal prejudices and biases? Because we all have them. So, how has, your education in social justice and your work changed or influenced who you are?
I think it has definitely become a really important aspect to me. Before I got involved, which I've only been involved not very long, a little over than a year since last year, I think I was mostly blind to most of what was happening around me. I felt, especially in the household that I grew up in, it was mostly centered on, my family story, my individual stories. I definitely feel that as I got more involved, I definitely gained lots of insights into other things. I began to see beyond just the view that that was instilled upon me when I was younger. I definitely feel that has had really important implications. I see things a lot more differently now. I would say that I've become a much different person, especially from that, especially on the topic of, Asian American hate crimes. I definitely would say before then, I didn't really think that there was anything intersectional about any of the issues that minorities experience. But now I definitely know that they are very much intersectional. That if one thing affects one group, it will affect all groups. So definitely being able to work with other people to unite and to work together on lots of different things, I would say has radically changed my life, has changed the way I see things, has definitely changed the way I perceive and will continue to act upon any further things. So.
DeAndre, what about you?
Can you say the question, like explain the question a little bit better?
Sure. What work have you done? Okay, so you've done social justice and work and you've learned more, right, about equity. How has that affected maybe your personal prejudices or biases? Because you know how we all grow up. Growing up in this country, growing up, being born, you meet different people, right? But you may have biases against them. You may assume, oh, women do this. You may see me in a hijab and think this. You may see a white person and think this, right? Everybody has biases, that we cannot help, and then we have to spend the rest of our lives unlearning. But as babies, we didn't come here with that. So I'm wondering, for all the panel, are there anything that working with social justice and getting out there and learning, how has it affected your biases, your prejudice, how you see it?
It helped me understand, like help me understand where people like who are like different separate races than black, like it helped me understand like their perspective of life and where they were coming from and stuff. And also it also helped me like it before I couldn't really see it. I thought that like it was just like us. It was just me. Like it was just black people who are like experiencing like terrible like who were experiencing like terrible things in society. But it wasn't. It's like Asians, Hispanics, like different like cultures and ethnicities that are experiencing the same things. And that's kind of what I learned. Yeah.
Camille, what about you?
As I did my research on what happened to us black people through slavery, segregation, as I learned more about the rest of the cultures and what they had to go through, I I didn't know this until like late. Miss Chav, she told me about this that before Columbus came and stole land from the indigenous people, Africans, they traveled to trade and bond with indigenous people. I also learned about the struggles that Asians had to go through during the Holocaust and how there was camps put in both sides because they only were looking for one type of person in the death camps. And then in America during World War II, there's Asians. It didn't matter what type of Asian you were, if you were Chinese, Korean, if you looked Asian in any way, shape, or form due to the stereotypes, they would send you to these camps and hold you because they thought that you were Japanese. And I just learned more about what others had to go through as I had to learn what, we had to go through as people. If there's one struggle with people of color, minorities in general, we all have to struggle from that problem as well.
Darius, what do you think?
Yeah, I've learned a lot by getting involved in this work. I think through interacting with different people, I have learned to look at the world through a completely different perspective. And I've used these newly gained points of view to evolve my own outlook on life. And actually, this past academic year in summer, I had the opportunity to work and tutor with refugees through the International Rescue Committee. And since I was working with the same kids, I was kind of able to build relationships with them and learn so much from them and their different experiences and combat some of my internal prejudices that I didn't even know I had. So I think being able to interact with different people from all different walks of life, I've been able to kind of, I guess, change my perspective in life.
Gabby, what about you? How has the work you've done in social justice and equity worked in helping you face and change possibly your personal prejudices and biases?
Thank you for the question. I believe it's made me more aware of my own personal prejudice and biases and others. It's made me see like the little things that I didn't see before and how it affects certain groups of people. So then I've been able to change that within myself. So then I can use what I've learned to teach others.
All right, so Camille, this is the most dangerous question
Ooh,
of
I
any
like.
panel ever. I'm starting with you with the most dangerous question. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to talk about that's a social justice issue and equity that would help you feel seen? Like, what are your final words? What would you like to talk about?
That's a great question. Um, I think we should talk more about, the system, the two systems, the American justice system along with the school system and how they go hand in hand. With the grading system for certain schools, if one assignment we like turn it in a bit too late or we lose points on it, it could drop our grade very low. And once those grades go low, we have to get held back and then we're stuck here. And once we're stuck, we're going to feel like we don't want to be here anymore. We want to quit. We want to go home. We want to enjoy our families. So then, we drop out or we do something stupid and get like suspended, expelled. And now we're stuck. And then people, they can't get a job. They're a dropout. You can't drop out of high school and expect a job that's going to pay a decent amount. So, they go to the streets to find money and start selling controlled substances or doing stuff that's illegal for their money. Once they do stuff like that, that's when stuff starts getting bad for them. They go to jail. It's like a system. I think personally that the grading system in our schools needs to be better because we can't. You shouldn't expect all of us to be able to get full A's if we don't understand the assignments and you're not giving us the help that we need because you're busy. That's pretty much all I feel.
Okay, Oliver, what about you?
Can you repeat the question?
You know, this is the dangerous question. Is there anything that dealing with social justice and equity and equality, racial equality, anything that we did not discuss or that you would like to highlight? You know, some final words, if you had anything to say to the people.
I think, again, definitely we should aim to build that community to bring everyone together. I think I touched on that a little bit. But I also think adding this little nugget on, to me personally, I don't believe that teaching about the current social climate in schools is or should be counted as political. I find that much of the work that this group that everyone involved in DEI has done has been labeled as pursuing a political agenda or advancing a certain partisan party's policies. I find that problematic because to many students, to many of us, there's nothing political about this, about the current social climate. We experience it. If we are labeling all this work that we are doing, if other people are labeling all this work that we are doing as political indoctrination, as labeling us students as politically indoctrinated, we will find that our work is going to be much harder because much of it reflects what we have experienced in school. There, again, I don't think that there's anything political about that, and it should not be. But that's just my final little bit of advice.
Darius, what do you think?
Yeah, first I wanted to say that I really agreed with what Camille was talking about the school to prison pipeline. And one of the things that actually really enlightened me about that was the documentary 13th on Netflix. If you've seen it, it talks about the racial inequality in America and basically about the mass incarceration of Black men in prison. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I guess another thing, I just wanted to talk about the power that social media has in these movements. I feel like it has been utilized in such a great way, especially in these past few years, in order to kind of propel these different movements, especially with like the Black Lives Matter movement during the summer of 2020. It really gained its momentum on social media and it was able to become tremendously culturally significant. And without social media, I don't think it would have been able to gain as much traction as it did. So I just think that we, as I guess the youth, should be using social media as a weapon to kind of, not necessarily a weapon, we should be using it as a tool to amplify our voices and to expand these movements.
Okay, speaking of that, you have to tell the grandmas and the mommies, the old folks out there, which social media, because you know, Facebook is dead, except for old people. We like to look at our cats and stuff. But everybody else, how can we find you on social media? What are the formats that are the best way to reach you?
I think that Instagram, Twitter, TikTok have all been incredibly influential in kind of amplifying these different movements. And I think they can be utilized even more to kind of spread awareness about different issues.
Okay, did I, wait a minute, DeAndre, it's your turn. The question, the dangerous question. Is there anything that you want to talk about or amplify that we missed?
Um, I don't know. I can't really think of anything.
Okay, well, that means we did a good job. But if you think of something, we're here for you because I feel like this, just as the conversation started with the teachers, and then one of the teachers, the brilliant teacher, your teacher, said, hey, we really should talk to the students. I think that we should continue the conversation because I believe Oliver was saying something to that effect. So, Gabby, is there anything dealing with social justice and equity that we haven't brought to the table that you feel that you need to amplify?
I think I would say how teachers play a role in all of the progression within our society, I want to say, or within our county, and the impact that they could have, whether that's getting students involved or starting those conversations with students that we say that need to be had in order to make the change.
Okay. And what would you say, Oliver, to maybe people who are cynical, who've given up, who are like, I just need to go to work. I just need to wash my house. I just need to do what I got to do because this change can't happen. And you know that a lot has happened lately. We don't even have to talk about it in this country to make people feel really disillusioned and that they're not being heard. What would you say to motivate people into action?
Nothing will happen if nobody stands up, I would say. I feel like a lot of the times it's really easy to feel pessimistic about these types of issues, that nothing that nothing anyone does will make a difference, that, we're all just flailing in deep water right now. But I would disagree. I think much of our work is moving. It's slow. I would say positive change happens slowly, just as the amount of time it took for us to get to this pretty bad place. It will take equal, if not more, time for us to get back on track, or to, help us slowly rebuild, I would say. But again, back to the premise of it, it will never happen if we do not act, if you do not act as an individual, if we do not work together as a community to help restore our communities. And it starts with the individual, and then it goes bigger. So thank you.
What do you think, Camille?
There's one more thing I have to say.
Okay.
I 100% agree with Oliver. Change won't happen until you put time in to make that change happen. It's gonna take a while, that's for sure. But if you win the fight, you can win the war. We've done it before. As a people, we've done it before. We can do it again. I believe in and everybody that we can do this. It just takes time. It's gonna take time.
What do you think, Darius?
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you with that. I feel like especially now, it's so easy to get discouraged when you see like all of this stuff going on in the media and all these like horrific things happening. It feels like we're actually progressing backwards. But I feel like now, especially because we're in such an interconnected world and we're able to communicate with so many different people, that it's also easier for us to kind of come together and move forward as a society and create positive change. So yeah, just don't give up is the main message.
Gabby, what would you say to people who are cynical about this world and don't think that we can make a difference? What would you tell them to inspire them to keep trying?
I think to look forward to what could be and don't look at what is currently, because if you look at what's in the present, you won't be able to have the full mindset to see what's in the future. Because as Oliver said, it'll take the same amount of time that it took to create all these problems to remove them. So you can't look at things in a fast forward motion, because nothing in life happens fast. You have to be able to make sure that you have a full understanding of what could be possible, so you're putting in all your effort into it.
Great. Okay, so DeAndre, what would you say to people who are like, nah, we can't change this world, we can't fix it, it's just going to keep going on the same, it's going to go, why should I try?
I would also say give it time to change, and so that like generations like after us like can speak up about it and state their opinions and ideas on the things that are going on like now or like in their time that they feel like it's wrong, or they feel like they would want to change or isn't right.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm so glad. I'm actually heartened and emotional, but I'm not going to cry. I'm so glad that the young generation of Howard County is optimistic, because I know you've been through some stuff. We've all been through some stuff, and you're in the school system, and some of you are going on to higher education very soon, and you're going to be taking all that you learned with you. But one thing I hope you take is believe in yourself, believe in the value of your voices, continue to inspire people. And I've been doing social justice work for a long time, and sometimes you do lose heart. So my other advice is, please take care of yourself. Don't just be out there, being a resource to your friend. It's great. I'm glad that you're listening to people and helping people and making movements happen, but also honor your voice and work on healing your stuff. That's a whole nother webcast, but take care of you. And on behalf of the Office of Human Rights and Equity, we wish you the best. We honor you and we see you, and we're trying to see all of Howard County. It's a big county, but the deal is we're here for you. And if you're looking for us, you can find us at OHRE at Howard County MD.gov for an email, and you can look at us on the internet at for all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. We are at HOCO, OHRE, and you can reach out to us and you can learn if you've been discriminated against. Please feel free to come to us and reach out and file a complaint. If you want to learn more about activism and you don't know where to start, we teach classes on activism, cultural sensitivity, getting rid of your biases, and learning how to be an advocate, bystander intervention. So, again, on behalf of Howard County Office of Human Rights and Equity, this is Marla Moore, Outreach Coordinator, signing out. And I hope you had a stimulating conversation with these young people and you learned that there is hope for the future. And we're going to keep continuing to bring you programming that offers you hope, insight, and education. Thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon.